I'm CJMartin. My passage comes from Dickens Bleak House, Chapter 9. In this passage, Esther Summerson continues to narrate the novel from her point of view. Mr. Guppy spontaneously decides to propose to Esther. He's very persistent with this notion, but Esther repeatedly refuses him, as she has no feelings for him. This scene, and specifically Mr. Guppy, are examples of comic relief that Dickens uses to offset the rest of his dramatic novel. "I beg your pardon, miss," said Mr. Guppy, rising when he saw me rise, "but would you allow me to favor of a minute's private conversation?" Not knowing what to say, I sat down again. "What follows is without prejudice, miss," said Mr. Guppy, anxiously bringing a chair towards my table. "I don't understand what you mean," said I, wondering. "It's one of our law terms, miss. You won't make any use of it to my detriment, at Kenton Carboy's or elsewhere. If our conversation shouldn't lead to anything, I'm to be as I was, and am not to be prejudiced in my situation or worldly prospects. In short, it's in total confidence." "I'm at a loss, sir," said I, "to imagine what you can have to communicate in total confidence to me, whom you have never seen but once. I should be very sorry to do you any injury." "Thank you, miss, I'm sure of it. That's quite sufficient." "If you would excuse my taking another glass of wine, miss, I think it might assist me in getting on, without a continual choke that cannot fail to be mutually unpleasant." He did so and came back again. I took the opportunity of moving well behind my table. "You wouldn't allow me to offer you one, would you, miss?" said Mr. Guppy, apparently refreshed. "Not any," said I. "Not half a glass," said Mr. Guppy. "Quarter? No? Then to proceed. My present salary, Miss Summerson, at Kenton Carboy's is £2 a week. When I first had the happiness of looking upon you, it was 1.15, and had stood at that figure for a lengthened period. A rise of 5 has since taken place, and a further rise of 5 is guaranteed at the expiration of a term not exceeding 12 months from this present date. My mother has a little property which takes the form of a small life annuity, upon which she lives in an independent, though unassuming manner, in the Old Street Road. She's eminently calculated for a mother-in-law. She never interferes, is all for peace, and her disposition easy. She has her failings, as who has not? But I never knew her do it when company was present, at which time you may freely trust her with wine, spirits, or malt liquors. My own abode is lodgings at Penton Place, Pentonville. It is lowly but airy, open at the back, and considered one of the healthiest outlets. Miss Summerson, in the mildest language, I adore you. Would you be so kind as to allow me, as I may say, to file a declaration, to make an offer?" Mr. Guppy went down on his knees. "Get up from that ridiculous position immediately, sir, or you will oblige me to break my implied promise and ring the bell." "Hear me out, miss," said Mr. Guppy, folding his hands. "I cannot consent to hear another word," said I, "unless you get up from that carpet directly, and go and sit down at the table, as you ought to do if you have any sense at all." "Yet what a mockery it is, miss," he said, with his hand upon his heart, "to be stationed behind food at such a moment. The soul recoils from food at such a moment, miss." "I beg you to conclude," said I. "You've asked me to hear you out, and I beg you to conclude." "I will, miss. As I love and honor, so likewise I obey. With that, I make thee the subject of that vow, before the shrine." "That is quite impossible," said I, "and entirely out of the question." "I am aware," said Mr. Guppy. "I am aware that in a worldly point of view, according to all my appearances, my offer is a poor one. But Miss Summerson, angel, no, don't ring. I have been brought up in a sharp school, and am accustomed to a variety of general practice. Though a young man, I have ferreted out evidence, got up cases, and seen lots of life. Blessed with your hand, what means might I not find of advancing your interests and pushing your fortunes? What might I not get to know, nearly concerning you? I know nothing now, certainly, but what might I not, if I had your confidence, and you set me on? Cruel miss, here but another word. I think you must have seen that I was struck with those charms on the day when I waited at the Whiter Cellar. I think you must have remarked that I could not forbear a tribute to those charms when I put up the steps of the hackney coach. It is a feeble tribute to thee, but it was well meant. The image has ever since been fixed in my breast. I've walked up and down of an evening opposite Jellyby's house, only to look upon the bricks that once contained thee. This out of today quite unnecessary out so far as the attendance, which was its pretended object one, was planned by me alone for thee alone. If I speak of interest, it is only to recommend myself and my respectful wretchedness. Love was before it and is before it. I should be pained, Mr. Guppy, said I, to do you or anyone who has sincere the injustice of slighting any honest feeling, however disagreeably expressed. If you have really meant to give me a proof of your good opinion, though ill-timed in this place, I feel that I ought to thank you. I have very little reason to be proud, and I am not proud. I hope that you will go away as if you had never been so exceedingly foolish, and attend Messrs. Kenton and Carboy's business. Half a minute, miss, cried Mr. Guppy, checking me as I was about to ring. This has been without prejudice. I will never mention it, said I, unless you should give me future occasion to do so. Quarter of a minute, miss, in case you should think better at any time, however distant, that's no consequence, for my feelings can never alter. of anything I have said, particularly what I might do. Mr. William Guppy, 87 Penton Place, or if removed or dead, care of Mrs. Guppy, 302 Old Street Road, will be sufficient. I rang the bell, the servant came, and Mr. Guppy, laying his written card upon the table, and making a dejected bow, departed. Raising my eyes as he went out, I once more saw him looking at me after he had passed the door.